The next thing down is apparently Xbox are about to show off a portable system, which I will see what you think about the idea of everybody chasing the Switch market. We've heard about a new PlayStation, whether it's going to be called the Vita 2 or whatever. But apparently Xbox are gearing up to show off a portable system in a teaser trailer. This comes from known leaker Xstasis, who recently leaked things like Lords of the Fallen coming to Game Pass, Hellblade 2's release date, etc. in advance. And they say that the idea of a teaser trailer will be at the Xbox showcase or something like that. Do you want it?
I mean, they should just do it. They should just, it's a no-brainer now. Everyone should, I hope they model it on the Duke.
Yeah,
give me a big Duke, and then you got it, and then it's like, and then they should also they should do the startup of the original Xbox as well, where
just
it's
the nuclear power.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah, that's my only input into all this, because I'm not a handheld gamer kind of guy. I think it's cool that they're around, but it would ruin my life if I had one. So I think it's cool. Again, if they lead into the early, just bring back the translucent hardware.
That needs to happen across the board.
I had as well. That was the Xbox I had.
I'm waiting for Nintendo to do that.
Bring back the black and white button as well, controversially. That was on those original controls, is all I'm saying. Scott, I think this makes sense for Xbox as a brand, because if they're going all in, and it seems like they are based on everything that was revealed in the FTC trial with the Activision Blizzard deal, their approach going forward seems to be Xbox on everything. Get it on your toaster, get it on the
on your burger.
Get it on your burger, get it in your sauce, get it in your fridge, get it on your shoe.
Get it on your shirt.
Get Xbox everywhere. So if they're already going in on streaming and putting it on phones and putting it on televisions, it just makes sense to have a handheld that's a little bit more hardcore orientated than the casual market that might just want to kind of stream stuff. Why not cover every base? You've got your consoles, you've got two different versions of them now. You've got a handheld that can play it, maybe play games natively in a way that just streaming to your phone can't, and adding a controller to it can't. If they're going to go all in on that, then yeah, I agree. A handheld is a no-brainer. It's not for me. I wouldn't buy it. I don't think. But why not?
I'm curious about the next wave of all this handheld stuff, because you've got PlayStation doing the PlayStation Portal, which was literally just looks like a tablet with a controller grafted onto it, which apparently did sell better than they thought it was going to. And then that led to, although at least it has led to various leaks or assumed rumors, etc., of a proper next PlayStation Portable, which is, maybe at some point they'll show that off. Sony love one-upping the competition, so maybe Xboxes will get out there, and then you'll get another Sony thing. So, hey, by the way, we're actually doing our own one to show that off, because something like the PlayStation Vita, you can argue was way ahead of its time in regards to how much the Switch then took off, the idea of portable home console games, production-wise, which was the thing that killed the PSP. I remember all those conversations in the late 2000s about people don't want big screen games on the go, and that's why that thing failed, because it didn't focus too much on dedicated portable experiences. But then the Switch comes along and says, hey, why not have all these experiences on the go? And it totally works. I am curious whether this is the next chunk of gaming as an industry. Like, is this just something that everybody focuses on for a little bit, or is it something that only Nintendo can pull off with a history of the DS, the Game Boy? They're more associated with it.
Yeah, this is my question to you two. When it comes to Sony and Microsoft specifically, do they need parity with the games that are already releasing on their current consoles? Because I think the reason that Nintendo has had so much success, the Switch was a hybrid console, which was absolutely great and game-changing, but before then, with like the 3DS and the Game Boy Advance and whatever, they were so good at making dedicated games for those machines in a way that I don't think Sony or Microsoft has ever really had any interest in doing. We talked a few weeks ago about the PS Vita and that being a great bit of kit, but Sony not really being committed to releasing dedicated experiences for that.
They had a handful, really. Like the Uncharted and Tearaway.
That's what I mean. A handful.
Same as the PSVR, I guess.
That's exactly same as the PSVR. Like, there's a handful of games, but for me, really, I look at the 3DS in the DS, and that had like games that people were like a constant churn of good dedicated game as I kick this desk down, and I can't even see Microsoft committing to that. So for me, it would need parity.
It's interesting because I feel like, given Xbox having the Series S, the hardware limitation concerns, like like people describing that console as like an albatross around everything going on, I guess they don't really care as much, maybe, if they were going to bring it in parity with the handheld device. Again, I'm not really familiar with the hardware, so I don't know what it's capable of doing or whatever. Same with PlayStation as well. That's a really good point you raise, because it's like, well, you're going to try and take a bite out of Nintendo's market share here.
Yeah.
and you've got to kind of sell developers on moving into that space as well. Like, how many PlayStation players do you expect to tap into that? How many do you expect to take away from Nintendo at the same time? So it's a logical thing to do, but it's not a sure thing in terms of success. I mean, we've already seen it like with the PSP and the PS Vita.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
There's definitely that whole thing. Obviously, everything comes back around to Game Pass. They need that to work. They want Game Pass on as many places as possible. There are various new smart TVs that have Game Pass apps on them. They want to make sure the Game Pass as a subscription is in front of you as much as possible. The Switch comparison, though, is interesting because Nintendo's top 10 is largely made up of their own first-party titles, and people love things like Animal Crossing, Mario, Zelda on the go, and Splatoon or whatever. Whereas Xbox's first-party stuff, like maybe there's a way to have like a handheld version of Halo, like a bespoke version of Halo. I don't think it'll be that. I think it'll be closer to the PlayStation Portal and just streaming something to a handheld, which you can already do. Like if you own a Backbone or any mobile game controller, you can just use the Xbox cloud streaming app to just bring stuff in. So maybe they're getting in on the PlayStation Portal area and just going like, hey, let's just have a bespoke thing that maybe looks like the Duke or whatever it is that can play stuff. It depends, because like you said, the developers and all their in-house studios will have to get behind a separate SKU, a separate version for the portable system, which is a way bigger choice in terms of where the entire Xbox brand goes.
It could lead to more growth. It could lead to more studios basically saying, well, we don't have the resources to make a full-on like PS5 title or something, but maybe we can pull something into that portable space. So it could lead to more goodness.
The one thing I'll just throw in, the one thing that I think Nintendo continually prove, and maybe more of my personal thoughts on this are seeping into this, is that people don't care about heavy-duty games on the go. Like whenever you look at something that's third-party on the Switch, it runs like EOS, like the LA Noire or whatever ports, or Outer Worlds or whatever, as opposed to, like I said, the first-party stuff looks really good, but graphically they've not massively enhanced since like a good 5-6 years ago, unless it's something like maybe Mario and Rabbids on the Snowdrop engine, whatever it is. But like for the most part, it doesn't seem like that portable audience care about something looking beautiful.
Well, it's just interesting what you say there, Scott, because when I think about handhelds, you refer to it as being something that you play on the go, which I know you do every day. You play your Switch on the train. You that's how you catch up on a lot of that gaming time. But when I think of handhelds, I always think of it as an alternative to the big TV that I wouldn't take outside.
It's competing for couch time, isn't it? So it's good for families, right? Like if you've got someone who's like, hey, well, I'd come off if you don't want your TV in your kids' room, you got it all downstairs, you want to spend time with them.
There is that too. Yeah.
Parallel play option.
That's it. That's exactly it. So I wonder what function does a handheld serve in, like, what's its primary function? Is it for on-the-go gaming, or is it for that alternative to the TV for a younger audience? Because I totally agree that people will be playing like those games on the go, but like the games that I played handheld on the Switch were those meatier ones. It was The Legend of Zelda. Like I played that entirely handheld. Breath of the Wild, Skyward Sword, Mario Odyssey. Like these big games that might not be the most cutting edge graphically, but they're meaty. You know what I mean? I can't really play. I personally can't play them in 10-minute chunks. So I wonder if the rise of that idea of this being something the kids can not hug the telly with. And
competing with phones and iPads and tablets. So that's probably, again, if you're a concerned parent about screen time for your kid and like worrying what they're doing on the internet or like, getting a hold of your apps or whatever, having a portable thing to have in the living room is good. If you, again, obviously you could just throw a book at them or something, but or give them toys to play with. But if that's out on the table and you want them to have another screen, then that's probably a safer option than having them, Roblox online or something.
It's pure anecdotal evidence. I have a sample size of about 5 people. So I'm not saying this is indicative of the entire population, but when I was growing up, like when I was a kid, like I was getting bought, PlayStation 1s after the fact, and all my friends had PlayStation or Xbox over Nintendo and stuff. But now when I talk to parents or young parents, people in this office or my friends, like they buy their kids Switches specifically for that reason. So it is something that they can replace the iPad with or replace a phone with and not have them on their telly all the time or whatever it is.
I was going to say, I'll blow it out way wider. I don't think it's just kids. I think it's just any living situation where someone else wants the TV.
Totally.
It doesn't need to necessarily be kids just because we're talking about Nintendo. But that whole idea of just more viable ways to play games in a living space and then trying to find the optimum screen size, where I forget the exact size of the PlayStation Portal, but it is a sizable bit of kit. And that whole thing of you don't necessarily, on the rendering side, you don't necessarily need to worry about a super high resolution, because if it's closer to your eyes anyway, there's that whole thing about the distance making up the quality anyway kind of thing, which is something that Nintendo have leaned so heavily on in not necessarily chasing 4K resolutions or whatever, and no one ever brings it up as a negative unless we're doing specific
no one does.
comparisons. It depends what it is, whatever the context is. But they've seemed to be doing just fine with the Fire Emblems, the Animal Crossings, the Marios running at 1080p at the most, as when docked, it's half of that anyway. So still, overall, we'll see if this is the next avenue that Xbox wants to explore.